Hey there, everyone, and welcome to Pour and Explore, a wine, food, and travel podcast. I'm your host, Nick Elliott, the wine guy. I'd love to be your go-to guide for all things wine, food, and the amazing places they take us. Here on Pour and Explore, we'll sip, savor, and wander through the exciting world of wine, discuss incredible cuisines, and uncover the stories behind unforgettable destinations. Each week, I'll bring you lively conversations with wine experts, chefs, travel pros, and fellow enthusiasts. We'll share practical tips, hilarious tales, and plenty of inspiration to fuel your next adventure. So grab a glass, pull up a chair, and join me as we pour, explore, and celebrate the good life. Let's dive in. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Pour and Explore podcast, where we dive deep into the world of wine, travel, and everything in between. I'm your host, Nick Elliott, certified sommelier, wine educator, and all-around wine enthusiast. Today we've got a special guest who is truly rethinking the way we experience and talk about wine. And trust me, you are going to want to hear this one. My guest today is a dynamic force in the wine world, as she is blending expertise with fresh ideas to reshape how we engage with wine, and she is driving the force behind rethinking the wine industry. This is not an industry podcast, so what does this mean for you? You're a wine drinker. Well, Priscilla is all about making wine more inclusive, thought-provoking, and most importantly, fun. Whether you're a casual sipper, a curious explorer, someone deep in the wine world, he's here to help us rethink how we talk about, experience, and connect through wine. Stick around. All right, everyone. Today we are diving into the world of wine with someone who's shaking things up in the best way possible. Joining us all the way from Adelaide, South Australia, is the brilliant and forward-thinking. She is a dynamic force in the wine world. Priscilla is blending expertise with creativity to refine how we experience and understand wine. She's the mastermind behind Rethinking the Wine Industry, which is a growing global community that's challenging the status quo and sparking fresh conversations. With this newsletter that's hailed as the TED of the wine industry, now with over 10,000 subscribers, it's a fantastic newsletter you definitely want to check out on LinkedIn. And of course, she's got a buzzing WhatsApp group uniting about 600 plus members from 65 countries. And of course, her podcast, Vino Visionaries, is featuring cutting edge voices in wine. And she is on a mission to inspire authenticity, connection, and innovation in every glass. So everyone, pour yourself something nice, because this conversation is about to get interesting. Welcome, Priscilla.
Thank you so much. Thank you for introduction as well. Was a great way to summary everything I try to do in the wine industry.
You are a busy lady, absolutely. Tell us briefly a little bit about your wine journey.
My wine journey was a very most of the people had someone from actually involved in the wine and they started in the wine industry, usually the family, or usually it's from a place where I already have the wine culture. But I'm from Brazil. And 30 years ago, when I was in Brazil, when I started my wine journey, wine was not a thing in Brazil. It was just a few bottle shops, like a few restaurants, like most of the restaurants only had, I still remember like the house of wine and it coming like in the giant on the table with the 2 another 3 options. That wine never was a thing in Brazil, but I got in contact with wine for the first time, actually, in a very unusual way. Most people actually say that is a way to drink wine, but that's how I started, with condensed milk, ice, and wine on the beach in Brazil. That's how we started in the wine industry. So that's when I was 18, 19 was the first time I drink wine and enjoy it. And I started to be more curious about wine when I had on my university, where we start to talk about gastronomy, wine, and because I studied tourism, so this is a part of all the part of the drinks, and we study as well vodka, cocktails, all the parts of the drinks in that. But the wine got my attention because I was love to drink wine with convincing me anyway. So I was like, oh, interesting. We can actually have a different versions of wine and you have a different varieties. And then back then, I didn't even realize what it was red wine and white wine. I
Right.
didn't even know that. So it's why it was not like a thing. Brazil, everyone drank beers back then. Now everyone drink wine. So we have like beautiful wine culture in Brazil today. But
Mhm.
30 years ago we are pretty much a beer drinkers. And then, yeah, it was very interesting that transition for me because when I told my family and my friends I want to work in the wine industry, everyone looked at me is like, where's this idea come from? And then that's just, but it was not, of course, it was not many opportunities there. And I thought maybe going to next door, Argentina, that's going to give me more chance for me to understanding more the wine industry and to learning and to work in the wine industry. And that's what I did. So 22, when it was 2012, 22 years old, I left to Brazil and I went to Argentina and never come back. So that's a lot like my little story how I started in the wine industry. Yeah. Drinking condensed milk with wine and the ice on the beach in Brazil. So that's my
Yep.
unusual story how I started in the wine industry.
I've heard of that concoction before. I've never actually tried it myself, and I cannot recall the name of it, but it sounds interesting to say the least. Awesome. Just from us knowing each other and talking previously, I know that you've had a lot of travels around the world. You've got a degree in travel and tourism. You travel all over the world for wine to Europe, of course, South America. You're in Australia. Tell me, how have your travels and coming in contact with all of these diverse cultures influenced your approach to wine?
Very good question. It's amazing when you're looking outside of the box and you actually have a contact with different places in the world and you understand how their wine cultures can be so different. And then that is why one of the reasons that we think the wine industry became it because every country, every culture, you should not be copying and pasting what are we actually standing for wine because I think every country, every people, every culture have it be adapted to the wine should adapt it to the culture, not the opposite. And then definitely with these travels, I learned quite a lot, different habits, how the wine is see, the perception, the perspective. Very good example. In Brazil, 13 years ago, we didn't even drink wine. When we went to Argentina, wine was everywhere. So it was very different to see like the difference between Argentina and Brazil, for example straight away. It was a big shock for me when I went to Mendoza and I see like these menus with a lot of wines, everyone with a glass of wine, everyone is drink wine. And in Brazil, it didn't even have that. When the supermarket where there's just a few options. And then the bottle shopper was just one or two in my city with a million of people. So it was a very different culture how we were approached to the wine. And then when we went to France and they have a different approach to the wine and in Italy, it's that when you go in there and you have this feeling and these emotions all connect you with the culture of the different place, how they represent the wine. I think it's a good thing like the diversity. I love the diversity of the different countries, how we can learn from the diversity the wine can bring it to us. I think that's the most valuable experience when I go into different regions and I go to visit the different wineries and go to different wine regions, is that feeling you're learning so much about their culture as well because they all always they're gonna approach the wine in a specific in a different way. And I think that is something like unique from the wine industry because it's just such a global experience. And I think we can do even better. And that's one of my missions is actually doing that even better. So that is how we connect more deeply with these new values and these new generations actually change the behavior shift between our society at the moment, the transformation to become always on this part of the wine like a social network, yeah, feeling social feeling than actually something from the past. Because I think that's what it became right now. But yeah, I really like that feeling of going to different wine tours and then bring that to the table. What is about not only about the product, but about the feeling, the culture, what the region we are visiting, bring it to the table, connect you with the wine and it connects you to the people. I think that's the experience I think that's I amazing like the most. So I wanted to talk to you, when you travel around the world, what do you love the most to bring to the table when you visit the wine regions?
Yeah, I would say the exact same thing. And as a matter of fact, a couple of episodes ago, I did an entire episode on this exact topic. Once you get out there into the world and experience people, the cultures, the wine, all of that stuff, I believe that makes us better human beings when we can understand or at least experience for a short amount of time what other people experience, what other people in other cultures and other countries experience. And whether wine is involved or not, it doesn't matter. It's an experience that I believe everyone could have if they put their minds to it. And I'm a poor kid who grew up on the East Coast of the United States and I never traveled anywhere. And finally, I got my opportunity to do that, and my world exploded. What I thought I knew was completely wrong. So that experience alone was very helpful to me to then be able to go and enjoy other cultures. I completely agree with you. And if you're listening to this podcast out of turn, go back to episode number 2. I believe it's episode number 2 with Rebecca, and we talked about that exact thing. So please check that out. So, moving on, something that's near and dear to my heart is teaching people about wine. And I know you love doing that as well, Priscilla. And you've been pretty vocal in your writings and in your podcasts about reimagining how we teach people about wine. Fun question to start off with. What's a traditional wine rule that you would love to see tossed out the window?
I think it's a hard thing because I think lots of people still defend that way to do things. But I do believe wine is about enjoyment. It's not about classroom. I don't think we need to approach the wine in the way people feel like they need to understand everything before I drink a glass of wine. I believe the best way to educate someone or to get someone involved in something is just to understand their terms. Just to give an example, I have my daughter, she's 2 years old, and she going to childcare. And when the childcare teacher told me, she's just learning by playing. She's developing curiosity and she's developing herself by that. So she's coming back and she's doing puzzles, like very complex puzzles now. But she's doing her terms. I didn't obligate or force her to do that puzzle to celebrate with her. I was with her in the whole on her terms. Okay, you develop your skills and in your time. And the same thing as I work, like she started working as well. She didn't was born working like you and then doing everything everywhere. She before that, she did so many little mistakes. She was learning. She was curiosity. How was the feeling to be able to start? And I think that's just the approach mostly human beings like it to be teach. To be honest, I see the whole education system, not just in the wine industry, but I see the whole education system, and this is included like in universities and everything. We haven't been told so much people what to do. We never said, never developed that deep, rather than thinking, rather than be curious, rather than actually learning with the terms. We just want to standard. Everyone needs to do the same thing. And then I think it's the old past way to do things. And
Mhm.
with these old technologies coming along, we include the AI, it's something like it's gonna make it personalized cheaper and it became a personalized, it became like in a with AI in the society, it became a one-to-one conversations and then including in the education system. So I do have a vision. Most people don't see yet, or maybe some, I don't know, you tell me. But yeah, the education should be something more towards like more on the curiosity. You just learn with your terms. Don't obligate people, force people to learning the same thing. Let them developing themselves on their way. They get curious to learning more and not just see, all right, I finished this and I get my degree. I don't want to touch any book anymore because we stop them to developing themselves. And I think that's the problem with the our system now and how we educate consumers. We want to tell them everything,
Right.
to that thing all done, but you don't let it then discover themselves. What they like it. It's not
Absolutely.
how to they send it to what everyone needs to like it. I wanted you to be yourself. I wanted you to tell me what's you're developing. Like the same as I did no one forced me to to drink Barolo. I developed it pretty much drinking condensed milk and wine and ice on the beach to drink Barolo. But it take my time. It taking my
Absolutely.
30 years to get there. It was not like, oh my God, I need to educate you. You did not drink sweet wine. You need to drink. If someone said that to me when I was 18 in Brazil, I probably not in the wine industry today.
Right. Absolutely.
There's no heavy wine culture in Brazil, so no one told me I was wrong. So I taking the wine, the drink, that cocktail drink first. After that, I took my muscatel. It was beautiful. Love my muscatel.
Yep.
Why? Changed by my bowels, and after that, drink some red wines, and then heavy red wines. Now I drink like lighter reds more than any other time. I was taking my time in developing and understanding myself, and I think that's what we don't doing today with consumers. We just see someone tell, I like Moscatel. It's like, oh, you wrong. Moscatel is not wine. Going to buy a Barolo or Barbaresca, and you need to develop your palate. But we don't understand that develop the palate is developing natural. It's a progress. It's like a child when they actually going to the child academy and learning different things. And that's the thing I think we missing when we're teaching people. We need to respect them. You need to understand their terms, and then forgive them to meet them where they are. Not just coming from a girl from Brazil who drinks condensed milk and wine to drink Barolo because she won't understand she needs steps to get that Barolo. Makes sense?
Absolutely.
And that's what we don't do in the wine industry today. That is steps to get the Barolo. We need to respect the progress. So let them drink Moscatel, let them drink that condensed milk with wine, let them drink what they gotta develop it in palate, but they need to start point. Makes sense? I think that is this kind of education. That's what I don't understand today.
Sure. No, you and I are completely on the same page when it comes to that. The first part of my question was a wine rule. My number one wine rule is drink what you like. And I never shove anything down anyone's throat, whether it's wine or education. And you put it very perfect. Earlier, you said meet people where they are. And that's the way that I approach wine education as well. I don't get up in front of a room and lecture people for an hour about the complexities of Italian wine. I could, I'd be happy to do that, but that's not what people want. So I completely agree with what you're saying is you have to meet people where they are. And I loved the analogy that you used with your daughter, and I'll make an analogy with my son. My son at a very early age was diagnosed with dyslexia as well as ADHD. So his learning style is very different from typical students. So we had to find ways and find schools and find educators for him that were able to come to his level and teach him on his level. And I 100% believe that's the way you have to approach any education for the purposes of this podcast. The wine education is meet people on their level. You don't need to do a 10-minute soliloquy about Burgundy if people just ask a simple question about Pinot Noir. You don't need to do that. If they ask you for more information, then you give them more information and so on. That's why I'll say it out loud. People aren't going to like me for it, but I think that's why sommeliers get a bad rap is because as a whole, we tend to shove information down people's throats, which is not my style. So you and I are 100% on the same page when it comes to that.
I was the same because I'm sommelier and I was that person you just described.
Yep.
But I'm glad they changed it because
Yep.
it is as you get blind. Sometimes you get it that your brain something like more specialized you get it. And sometimes it's in your brain you don't even notice. I don't see people doing that on purpose. I think that's just the
Yep.
way it's designed in the education to teaching us. Somehow it's connect something in our brain because I never been that girl either, like you personally, but I was doing the same thing you just described. So I think that's the way you trained to be a sommelier or to be a wine educator, to be wine communicator. Connect something in your brain here, and it just makes so snobby. I don't know what exactly the psychology behind. But after you finish all these Western certified sommelier, court of master sommelier, blah, 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 there is something your mind change. Your
Mhm.
things change and it became a service novice. I don't know exactly. I would like you to do some research about that because I think that's a very common thing after you finish all this school became very snobby. And I
Mhm.
don't understand why when even me, I was not a snobby person before. But I don't know exactly what happened in my brain. I think that's something like the way you train to other people, to become to training other people, it's connected with that is not being, I am the best, I have my ego, blah, blah, blah. Look at me, I have these whole things here, my clothes, blah, blah, blah. So I think that is
You're
something
right.
that on the brain I don't really understand well. But if anyone have a research and listen that podcast, please send a message to me because I would like to know more about that the brain kind of these trained courses.
Absolutely, absolutely. And if you want to hook up with Priscilla, you can do that on LinkedIn is a great place to find her. And what we're talking about right now is rethinking the wine industry. And that is the name of her newsletter that she puts out. Is it monthly or is it weekly, Priscilla?
It's at 15 days. We got it like a new newsletter.
Perfect, perfect. Yeah, rethinking the wine industry. Definitely subscribe to that newsletter on LinkedIn, and you can find Priscilla there. And I ask her some more questions or provide that data that she's looking for. Another fun project you've got going on is your podcast, Vino Visionaries. Let's talk a little bit about that.
So video visionary, it's a challenge. People who try innovate in the industry has to push back. There's always innovators is gonna facing that. And that's why who innovates in any industry or who does something innovative, it's gonna be very successful after X amount of time. But they need stuff required a bit. The pushback is part of the innovation system or the innovation cycle, probably. That's
Hmm.
probably the better
Hmm.
way to explain that. But the wine industry in particular, making things even harder. The way the mentality of the wine industry, it's all about they have all this feeling they care so much about the tradition, about the vines, about all these steps. They don't understand that people are different. Some people probably like that, but lots of people probably have absolutely no interest in. And we don't adapt it to different customers. Again, we don't meet where they are. We just put in the same message to where make us feel very good about ourselves, but you don't really think about the customer. They feel good about themselves. No, okay. If that don't matter for him, so it doesn't matter. So it doesn't matter for you because they're not gonna listen to you. So and I think that's is yeah, something like on these lines has been very difficult because so many people notes that and they come with a different idea, different approach, innovation ideas, but they push back because they have these old assumptions. They know everything. They don't need to ask any questions. They don't need to change anything. And that's being a visionaries is actually a way for us to bring you fresh perspective, fresh ideas, fresh business, like a business that we try to improve the different perspective in the wine industry. Visionaries are people who see things different of the majority. So being visionaries is pretty much all the people in the wine industry who have a very interesting view and a different perspective. When it challenges, they start call or challenge the way we do things, the practice, products, or whatever. So it's just a putting like I think we just be able to grow if you're putting more perspectives on the table. I don't think you'll be able to grow by thinking the same. If you are the same in position you were 10 years ago, you're not working on developing to grow. You pretty much stay in the same space. And that's the Vino Visionaries about it, to bring you all these visionaries who have a very different perspectives to challenge people thinking created that critical thinking in the wine industry and disrupted this group thinking. And I think is that something we need to disrupt in someone. But we just be able to disrupt this group thinking by bringing different perspectives. So that's what being visionaries is about it. So visionaries who have a very different perspectives can bring something new to the table in challenging thinking.
Fantastic. And it's absolutely fantastic for our listeners today. If you are looking for a behind the scenes view of the wine industry. And it's also a great way to get in there and add your voice to the conversation by commenting and liking. Definitely head over to YouTube and check out Priscilla's podcast. Again, it's called Vino Visionaries. It's available on YouTube and all of your favorite podcast locations. Subscribe, get in on the conversation. You never know what you're going to learn as a wine lover, and definitely want to get you involved in that conversation. That's absolutely fantastic. Looking at it from more of a consumer lens, looking at the wine industry through the lens of a consumer, what new and exciting thing should we be on the lookout for in the next 5 to 10 years?
I think it's going to have lots of innovation. I think we see the decline in, because I'm not sure how many people listen to the podcast, but just to give a little introduction what's happening in the wine industry at the moment. So we are very on declining consumption globally. And it has been that for the last few decades, but this year, like last year, and they forecast it for the next few years, it's very, we need to worry about, we need to think about, we need to rethink, to try to reapproach things. Then I think in the next 5, 10 years, I think in the next few years, you'll probably see a lot of things happening to the wine industry to be able to challenge us really to do things different. I don't see it as a bad thing. I think we need to make the wine industry the way it became relevant for the future. And these things have to the wine industry to be able to grow, because you never grow in the comfort zone. You need to be uncomfortable to be able to grow. So that's just for personal experience, but for business as well. So it would be very uncomfortable in the wine industry, but I'm sure this is going to be over, and then you're going to be triggered again. But when they trigger again, we're going to change the way we communicate. We're going to be making, I believe, and hopefully I can help in somehow to make this industry more inclusive. So when everyone is welcome, it's not only for people who knows about wine or wanted to understand about wine. If that mentality is the past. I have a friend, it was last week, he said to me, Priscilla, it's because you've never been in UK. But if you go to UK, everyone thinks you're going to learn to drive a car properly. You're going to learn to drink a wine properly. It's all about to do everything properly. It's just not going to happen with this new generation, with the transformation. And I think that's just something we're going to break in that, to know what we're going to meet the customer right now. And instead to try to making everyone drink it properly. Probably see a lot of the different products as well. So we already see wine pouch. We can see more wine you can. Like all these products is like one service products is becoming more and more popular, and you probably see more of them. But as well, the wine for sharing as an experience, because that's what I like the most, becoming more a social share experience than just a status thing, like a luxury product. I think
Mhm.
luxury product have a space for who wanted to buy the prestige. But the prestige and luxury just for occasions. It's just for a few times of the year. We need to make your wine more inclusive, to make it the wine more lifestyle, like a water drinking most of the time with my friends. Not just when it's like I have a special occasion, I will buy an expensive wine and bring to the table, because that's the thing we bring in now to the industry. And that's what we make people believe it's about. And that this is never going to increase the all popularity in the wine. It's going to become less relevant, and to the industries it's coming, like the transformative Gen Z, where they're looking for more inclusive experiences. So I think the messages need to be changed for that social creation experience than just to be something like the product famous, so buy me. Look at my vine. My vine is the heroes. I think that conversation. But yeah, lots of things is going to change for the next 10 years. I'm sure the wine is going to thrive again. It's going to be amazing to see the wine successful again and selling lots of wines, and all these issues and challenges gone. But before they thrive again, like we may need it to suffering a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is certainly trending in that direction. But I feel if we go back to the conversation we had a little while ago about meeting people where they are, I absolutely agree. And I've got a counterpart up in Monterey County who's trying to do that himself. He's trying to change the way that the wineries connect with their audience. I think it's a brilliant way to go about it because in today's day and age, it's 2025, and the days of advertising your winery in a magazine, those days are gone. And I'm not necessarily saying that social media is the end all be all either. There are ways that you can connect with your customers that don't involve taking out $1 million ad on Super Bowl. And we're dealing with a lot of old school mentality, to your point, in the wine industry, where we've been doing it this way for 80 years. So we need to continue doing it this way. The answer to that, and for everything that we've talked about today, that's wrong. You need to move forward. You need to innovate. You need to rethink the way that you're doing things. You need to change because if you want to sell your wine, you have to.
If you do the same things you did yesterday, you're gonna get the same results. There's no way for you to do the same things you get different results. If you don't go to the gym and keep eating the same things, you're just gonna be the same way you was yesterday. If you want to go fitness, you need to change your habits. You need to change the things you do. But it's the same thing as approach to the wine industry. If you want to bring something new to the wine industry, get different results that we have it today, you need to do something new. And that's what we call innovation. But yeah, I agree 100%. And I agree with you as well. Magazines and stuff like that. People spend much more time. I spend much more time on social media. And I think that's something there's a lot of potential for the wine industry. Lots of people is not doing is a personal brand and content creation. If you get good in content creation, in storytelling, you can actually bring in opportunities to your brand way more because people buy from people. People buy why you do it, not what you do it. And then
Mhm.
and there's so many opportunity that is not explored yet for most of people in the wine industry. They could actually change the business without spending thousand millions with advertising or anything. But just to change it for building personal brand, building content creation. And then sometimes it's taking a few minutes and a little time in there where you probably just drink a coffee, just to write something like something, share some of your values, do some content creation, share your knowledge with the community, share what you have, give us so much value for the wine industry, for your customers, for whatever you want to sell, what you want to sell. When you give so much value, people's going to say, all right, I want more. How I can get it? But you need to create that value. You need to give that value. And if you don't have the money of these big wineries where you have lots of money to do advertising, to do very amazing techie experiences and blah, 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 doing content creation, doing your personal brand is free. But the thing is, we don't think this is important, or we get scared with the haters. But it's just to let the haters down and then keep focusing on the lovers and keep going and keep building yourself and keep your selling your product, your service, or whatever you bring to the table.
Agreed. Absolutely. And I'm speaking directly to our listeners right now. I would love for you to, of course, subscribe and comment to this podcast, but make sure you're telling us what is it that pushes a winery over the edge for you to go out and buy it. That's what I want to hear from the audience today. Go ahead and comment wherever you're listening today. What pushes you over the edge to buy wine A versus wine? We would love to hear that. Priscilla, thank you so much for the conversation today. It was really awesome. I appreciate your time and being with me and all of your fabulous expertise.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to have this chat, to be able to talk in a few things in what you're actually doing in the wine industry and the tourism and things like that. I think it was a great conversation. Congratulations for your podcast. We need more of these around the world, like a little bit more information, share experience. I think that's how we all grow, share knowledge. I think this is absolutely most great way for us to give value to other people's lives and to build the community. So congratulations for your idea. I'm a big supporter of this for your new adventure, if your new podcast. And I'm here for whatever you need from us. Please just let us know, buddy. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
As I mentioned, you can find Hennekam on LinkedIn as well as other places, but that is a great way to find her. It's going to be a great place to connect with her podcast. which is called Vino Visionaries. Check out her bi-monthly newsletter, which is called Rethinking Wine. You definitely want to subscribe to that, whether you are in the industry or not. If you're listening to this, you're probably not, but definitely go check it out. It's lots of fun and a lot of great information and tidbits in that. With that, thank you, Priscilla, and I'll talk to you real soon. Have a great day.
You see ya. Bye bye.
Wow, what an incredible conversation. Priscilla, I love the way you're bringing fresh ideas into the wine space and making it more engaging, more inclusive, which is very important, and really challenging us all to think differently about what's in our glass and, more importantly, how it gets there. From your global wine community to your podcasts and all the critical thinking you're sparking in the industry, it's clear you're just getting started. Thank you so much for your time. Hey, if you enjoyed this episode, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button right around here somewhere. It's down here. Leave a review and share it with a fellow wine lover, a fellow traveler, and a fellow foodie. We've got special things coming up for you real soon. Talk about travel, of course, with more wine experts, chefs. I've got all kinds of great stuff coming up, so make sure you hit subscribe, and I'll see you on the next episode. Priscilla, thanks again for joining us, and to all of you, until next time, keep wondering and wandering. Cheers.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Pour and Explore. I'd love to hear your thoughts, your stories, and your questions, so you can drop me a line at cheers@thewineguy.vin. That's cheers@thewineguy.vin. Or let's connect on TikTok, Instagram, or Facebook. Grab those links on my website at thewineguy.vin. Until next time, let's keep wondering and wandering. Cheers, everyone.